Hello, everyone. This is Maruf Ahmed, co-founder and global director of technology and services at One World Infotech. I would like to welcome you in today's webinar hosted by One World and Potenza. It's my absolute pleasure to have Thanusha from Potenza, my colleague, and to discuss on today's webinar on fourth industrial revolution, banking use cases on robotic process automation. Over to you, Thanusha.
Thank you very much, Maru. Hi, everyone. Good afternoon to all of you. I'm connecting from Sri Lanka. Thanks a lot for the introduction, Maru. So what we're going to do is we're going to move into the presentation mode. Can you move me to presenter mode, Maru, please? Yes. Right. Thank you very much. You can see my screen, correct, Maru? Yeah.
Yes.
All good. So good afternoon again. So 12th of January 2022. I wish all of you a happy new year. So my name is Dhanusha. For the ones whom we have not met, I was there in Dhaka last month in December. Met, I think, most of you. I understand there are members who are not there, whom we have not met. So for the benefit of them, I'll be going through some of the content that I already covered when I was in Dhaka. But then, of course, I have added much more detailed information in the slides today and my session today to take you through more practical examples. Right. So welcome to the webinar. We're talking about fourth industrial revolution, banking use cases on robotic process automation. So let's move on to understand first. All of you know we are actually in the middle of an industrial revolution. So if you look at the history, what has happened, we had the first industrial revolution a couple of centuries back, where we had the water and the steam engines coming in. So what happened? So it actually replaced humans and animal power with machines, right? And then about another 100 years later on, with the invention of electricity and the internal combustion engines, airplanes, telephones, cars, radio. So we stepped into the second industrial revolution. And again, about another 100 years later, we moved into the third industrial revolution, which talks about the use of computers, technology, and then, of course, the birth of internet, heavily adopting electronics-related devices. And then, of course, we looked at more automation. And then, of course, mankind went into mass production. Right? So with that, now we are again in the middle of another industrial revolution. We have not passed 100 years. Now it's actually getting shorter and shorter, the time between one industrial revolution to the other. If you really look at, we've actually now started talking about the fifth industrial revolution as well. Right. So we are in the middle of the fourth industrial revolution. So what is it? What is this fourth industrial revolution? So we're talking about, of course, driverless cars. We're talking about smart robotics, and of course, smart material, right? And also 3D printing to whatnot, right? So amidst all this, there's a very important topic that matters to all of us. Now, robotics, if you look at robotics and AI, they come in two forms. We have hardware robotics, we have software robotics, and also even in hardware robotics, the most important piece is the software part of it. Right? So today, what we're going to focus on is predominantly more towards software robotics and what's the application of software robotics in our businesses and in our operations. Right? I hope it's very clear. So what we talk today is relevant to the current industrial revolution, and also it's very important for us to tap into some of these technologies faster. So I'll quickly jump into the slides. Right. So we need to understand the digital workforce and intelligent automation and why it matters, right? So before we start the slides, we have a
This is the story of work. It started a long time ago, on a Monday, which was handy. For as long as history itself, the humans needed to work. They wanted to work, to grow things and create things and build things, to see what they were capable of, to stand at day's end and say, I did that, which felt pretty good. So they worked more, built more, and created more, and traveled to far-off places. And then someone suggested submitting expense reports for those far-off places. His name was Glenn, and he was a jackass. Anyway, the people kept getting better at work. They built better tools to work more efficiently. They built amazing machines to work faster. They built computers to work smarter. But still, they couldn't do enough work. Because during all that work to do more work, they had created work, and not the good kind. Not the let's sit around and come up with ideas kind. Not the I can't wait to get to work so I can jump into a new project kind. The crap kind. The drudge and data and admin and the damned expense reports. So the humans had to work more at work they didn't like. That made them robotic. That didn't inspire. They had to postpone vacations. They had to miss family dinners. They were pissed. And then something happened. Someone had a really amazing idea. They came into work and said, stop working and start working. The humans thought she might have had wine at lunch, so she showed them a way to put the fun back into work, to waste less time doing the things they hated, to make more efficient the big tasks, to stop making the humans act like robots and start teaching the robots to learn the humans. Not to replace people, but to free them. Even Glenn. Robots that learn you. Imagine the potential, like starting over. To help us remember again that work only really works when we're happy at it.
So I hope you got the idea. Sorry, I've shared this with some of you previously, but that sets a kind of a context to our conversation today. We're looking at robotic process automation, but beyond it, called intelligent automation. So intelligent automation is a bit more a complex conversation. So let's see the automation journey of any organization here. So the automation journey starts with every organization. When the organization starts, you will see a group of people trying to work together to deliver a certain service, right? So you'll have people, you have the interactions, you can see here, and also you have the information moving from one person to the other, and they act and take decisions, and then they get things done. But now in this whole conversation, you will see it's ad hoc. So situations like this we called more of a premature processes automation. So that's like unmodeled process situation. And then we move on to the next level. Next level is we decide when the organization grows and or the processes become more complex, or when the clients are demanding, we need to define service levels, we need to have more quality, reduce turnaround times, so we need to improve. So the next level of improvement is that we define the processes, the steps and the sequence. So you see the steps are defined, the sequence is defined, so there's a flow generated, and also you see that there are stakeholders also, right? So stakeholders, tasks, sequence defined. So we are modeling a process here, right? So the output is modeled process, but this model process you can keep it as a manual process, or you can automate. So you go to the next step of further improvement of your automation journey. You take these model processes and then you map that or integrate that into a system or multiple systems, right? So this could be in banking terms, it could be account opening or loan origination and approval, any kind of process that we carry out inside an organization. So here what happens is it's structured process, model process, but we use systems, right? and each person has a task to do in one or another system. Now, most of us think that we have achieved the maximum amount of productivity when we arrive here, which is a misconception, right? So if you see, most of the organizations that all of you represent have automated workflows or automated processes. But why we are here today is to tell you that there is something beyond you could do, right? So now, if you really look at, you will still find, even though you have computers, systems, as you saw in the video as well, that still we have created more work. Of course, there are compliance requirements, risk requirements that you need to comply. There are additional steps, additional work that we need to do when we carry out a process or execute a process. Now we have created more work. We also have systems. Now, can we improve further is the question. So we can improve further. So what we're going to do is we're going to look at an already automated flow and then try to understand whether do we have any humans like you and me who have a brain to think, meaning cognitive capabilities, right? Who is sitting down in front of a computer and does something repetitive and mundane. For example, taking data from one system to the other, posting transactions, or looking at data, applying a fixed logic and taking a fixed decision, right? Whether it's yes or no, right? So it could be anything that you would do, but if it is repetitive, and if it is mundane in nature, and if it is logic based, right? If it complies with these three things, you can take that out from a human. Because why? Even though a human carrying out this task, it's actually a robotic task. So with a lot of automation that we have done in our organizations, we've ended up making some people, or most of the people, robots. So the conversation with fourth industrial revolution is that, is there a way that we could use robotics in taking over some of these robotic tasks which already been carried out by humans? It could be physical robotics, it could be software robotics, right? So here we are focusing on software robotics because we involve systems, and we're not talking about a physical robot coming and sitting in your office and doing work like a human, no, but we're talking about a software robot working way faster than a physical robot to help you process a lot of things, right? So that's where the level of the next level which we achieve called task automation. In task automation, what happens is you will see it's the same automated process, but the number of humans have reduced, or even probably sometimes the number of steps also have reduced. And you will see that some of these tasks now have been palmed off or taken out and put to run by software robot. So that is called task automation. So today, along with One World and Potenza, we invite all of you all to look at your organizations, and I'm going to take you through a process in terms of how we're going to do this, right? And what has been done already. So robotic process automation addresses task automation. And to that, when you add intelligence, we make it intelligent automation, right? And there are also other further improvements or combined improvements through straight-through processing, wherever not only humans talking to machines, but machines talking to machines. So machines talking to machines happen through, we call it application programming interfaces through them, right? APIs. So that is also part of further optimization. So if you take this whole journey, we have two sections. One is process modeling, the other one is process automation. So what we are focusing today is how we go beyond flow automation, how we go beyond process automation to task automation and more advanced automation through intelligent automation with the use of software robotics. Moving on. So this whole concept of RPA, which is the first step of intelligent automation, I'm going to talk about it in later, is there are four stages, right, of maturity of RPA in an organization. Now, this is also a few other misconceptions are there. First one is we think enterprise automation is desktop automation, which is not, right? So RPAs initially started with assistants, right? Assisting humans. Whenever humans want, we can invoke them. Whenever we don't want them, we may keep them aside, right? So that is like more of an assistant like Siri, right? So you get something to, you give an instruction verbally and things happen, right? Or Cortana, right? or Alexa. But here it's the desktop software running in your desktop machine. Whenever you need, you can activate it, you can invoke it and get things done. So that is the first elementary level of automation, but we don't consider as enterprise automation, because you need to give a robot or software robot to every employee, and then it's not centrally managed. So your investment, we don't know. If someone is using properly, it's fine. If someone is not using properly, you don't know, right? So this is starting point, desktop automation, which is attended. The technical word for desktop automation is attended automation. You still need a human to invoke the automation. You move to the next level, which is robotic process automation with digital triggers. So where this is called unattended automation. Yeah, you don't need to invoke or activate the automation. It gets automatically triggered based on time, activities, or any trigger, right? So this is all RPA, these two. It's more process driven, right? You can see this. And then the next level is, now we're going to inject a bit more intelligence into this conversation, right? We are going to connect data and RPA together. So this is the starting point of intelligent automation. We also used to call it hyper automation, but now we don't use it anymore. We call it, the universal word is intelligent automation. So we bring machine learning to it, right, with bit of prescriptive analytics and decision engines are linked. So the decision is taken and the software robot executes it, right? So it's intelligent automation, and where data analytics and RPA is combined together, right? And then you can further improve. In your complexity improves, we can bring in more, hardcore artificial intelligence, like deductive analytics and all that, and combine with RPA, right? But we need to see where we start, right? So if you are a corporate SME, right, your starting point is not desktop automation, which is attended automation. Your starting point is this: robotic process automation with unattended automation, right? So and you would see, when you move in this x-axis, you will find from doing to thinking, you are adding more cognitive capabilities also into automation, right, making it more intelligent automation. So you heard different terms here. The different terms we've been using is automation, RPA, and AI. So what is IA then, right? So I explained it again last time when I was in Dhaka, but today I'm explaining it again. So if you take the whole universe of automation, right, and there's another universe of artificial intelligence. So there's the intersection of automation and artificial intelligence. And also before that, within automation, we have RPA. So RPA is a subset of automation, right? So the intersection of artificial intelligence, automation, and RPA, this part is known as intelligent automation. So you have RPA in artificial intelligence. It could be machine learning or any complex use of our artificial intelligence combined with RPA. So that is called intelligent automation. We call it IA, right? It's not AI, it's IA. So now we are getting into some detailed conversation, topics in terms of banking industry. So what can we do? There are multiple use cases. So most of these use cases are ones that we have already done with different or various banking and financial institutions, right? If you take, we've done a lot of task automation work in core banking and line of business systems, for involving current and savings accounts, cards, treasury, leasing, pawning, bank assurance, international transactions, or even payments and settlements and facility reschedules, etc. If you really look at, you involve core banking system or a line of business system. It could be cards, it could be ATM switch, it could be any system, right? And you might say, fine, Tanusha, we have done integrations. Yes, of course, you've done integrations, no problem. So then what do we have to automate? I'll take you through a few steps that you can still identify areas for automation, right? So there are use cases. And then number two, integration between core and LOB systems and support systems, right? So another conversation would be, yes, we have done integrations. Our card send system, I have ATM switch is connected to core banking through an interface API. Yes, perfectly fine. But are there any old applications that needs to interact with some of these new systems, which are legacy? So you don't have a way of customizing the interfaces or building interfaces, you don't know how it's done, or the vendors is not there, or the support is not there. How are we going to do that? So the beautiful thing with RPA is that RPA can be used to connect two systems, a modern system and an old system, in multiple ways. Old systems have less extensibility capabilities, meaning talking to external systems through APIs, it's not there, right? So how do we get information out of an old system and make sure an automated flow happens with a new system? So in most cases, what we do is we put a human in the middle, right? We put a human to interact with the user interface, log in, extract data, log out, and then log into another system and upload it and process. So if you really look at in your organization, there can be multiple scenarios where you use humans in the middle to connect an old system with a new system, or two systems that you cannot build an interface. If you really look at what they do, they work on a logic-based, repetitive, mundane work. So that can be automated through a software robotic straight away, right? So that's what I mean here. And also post-credit monitoring is something very important for any bank of any size, right? May it be a finance company or a tier 2 bank, a non-banking financial services organization, NBFI, or else a bank or a commercial bank or a specialized bank, right? What we all do is banks participate in an in a process called money multiply, right? So we make money out of depositors' money, and then we keep part of it, and then we give back part of that to depositors. So in this whole process, managing credit, or your assets are the loans that we have granted, the credit facilities that we have given, right? So it's important for us to monitor these facilities to reduce the risk exposure, make sure that we also collect any other fee or stop any leakages in the bank, right? So all of us know, you and us, we all know that there are multiple revenue streams for a bank, right? Either you have an interest income or non-interest income. So if you have non-interest income, if you further expand, we are talking about fee income, forex income, and all that, right? So these are the multiple revenue streams for a bank. Now, we need to understand how are we going to manage the assets that you have and monitor these assets, right? So you may say, fine, Dhanasha, we have reports. Yes, we have a lot of reports, but if you really look at how do we monitor millions of assets that we have in the form of various types of facilities against the original terms that they have agreed, right? So that is a challenge for a lot of banks, right? We have a couple of banks we have done this kind of monitoring. We call it post-trade monitoring, which is covenant monitoring, right? Including things like insurance renewals, cash build-ups, all that, right? Point number 4, we're talking about automation of preparation, validation, and submission of regular reports to your central bank. It could be cost related, treasury related, etc. There's so much of reports that you need to generate, and also you need to send. Without changing any of your existing systems, you actually can automate all this work, right, through RPA. Reconciliation with international financial institutions and banking transaction partners, merchants, etc. Right. So your reconciliation work can happen through RPA, probably from Bcash to any type of fintech or payments company that you work with, or any other merchants that you work with, transaction partners you work with. There are various things you need to reconcile with them. You can, if you're doing this through reporting and manual analysis, you can automate this through RPA. Transaction file uploads, etc. There are multiple uploads happening. It could be corporate payments, it could be TSM files or backend uploads, it could be anything, right? Where multiple files are being sent, and probably even you deploy humans to do file conversions or data inside files, or data or format conversions, right? If you're spending time doing all these are things that you can automate straight away. Point number 7, something very important, master data management. Now, if you really look at if you're maintaining 2 different profiles for the same customer in your core banking and your electronic channels, you also need to find ways of synchronizing some of the master data you have, right? So how are you going to do that? So with our experience, what you're seeing is wherever electronic channels involved, the contact numbers, the mobile numbers, the the data is kept more up to date through your electronic channels, because your customers interact with through your electronic channels. But if you take your core banking, customers don't come to wherever customers don't come to branches, there's very less opportunity that we get to update the information, right? So if you have updated information in one channel or one system, how can we replicate those information to other required systems, right? You have two options. You can invest in a expensive master data management system, or else you can still do and use automation, RPA, to do your master data management, understanding what's the primary copy, understanding what's the secondary copy, or if you want to look at a timestamp and then update, you can go ahead and do that. So we can build whatever the logic that you want through RPA to do your master data management internally. Or even if you take even user lifecycle management internally, that is also master data management, because when we create a user, we create internal users in multiple systems, and when they resign, when they get promoted, when they get assigned to branches, when their profiles changes, you need to go and update this manually, right? We can automate that with a single trigger to go and update multiple systems of the same user of the access and their roles based on their profile. So identify cross-selling and upselling opportunities proactively based on logics and routine basis. So this is analyzing data, right? You can also deploy RPA to analyze data and also suggest you things, right? Looking at cross-selling and upselling opportunities. For example, just imagine you have retail clients who have already taken facilities and who have already paid on time and closed those facilities. Can you reach out to them to ask for any more other facilities? So identifying them across your millions of customers is a challenge. You need to extract data, you need to manually analyze them, or you need to run multiple queries. You can automate that with RPA, right? See, a lot of easy ways of getting things done. Automation of scheduled monitoring tasks currently carried by human workforce, probably channel monitoring, ATM casual monitoring, and all that. This could be used for anything that you want to monitor, where the data is available digitally. You can use RPA to monitor. Any type of reporting and management information, automation of data extraction, transformation, loading. We worked with a bank recently. We reduce, after the end of day process, we reduce the time that they take to populate data, multiple sources, drastically, from couple of hours to 40 minutes, right? So the MIS is available faster, right, without taking much time. Next one, suggest, execute actions on insights gathered through analytics. That is a hyper automation scenario. So we also can, as I mentioned, reporting and all that, we can make it more meaningful by suggesting some insights. So this is a combination of RPA and data analytics. So it's a hyper automation scenario, right? Technology operations automation also can be done, right? In backend operations, your operations departments, all that. So these are some of the case studies that use cases that we have from banking industry, right? So I hope you're clear in terms of where you can apply, but I thought I should also connect it to your bank's strategic planning and operations planning, right? So for example, when we take the strategic planning process, you usually set multiple targets, right, this year, right? So how are we looking at growth of the organization, right? We are probably looking at loan book growth. We're looking at credit quality improvements. If you look at here, proactive NP monitoring and forecasting, drive fee income growth, right? Also looking at how we could further improve your cost to income ratio. It's a very important KPI for a bank, right? And also optimizing processing times and turnaround times. Of course, looking at elimination of human errors in financial and non-financial transactions. And also, how can we go to market faster in terms of new products, right? To configure products in existing systems or facilitate some of the integrations faster, right? So again, beating competition, right? And also, you also could have a strategic decision like centralization of standard distributed functions. There could be standard functions which are distributed across your bank through your network that you want to centralize and bring to operational excellence level. So these are all strategic objectives that you would like to achieve, right? These are samples. You may have more for sure, right? So we need to first understand what do we need to achieve and why we need to achieve, right? So we talk about why. We're going to talk about, right, why, right? So processing times, benchmarks, and defined process times, right? So we're looking at benchmarks and defined process times for our processing times, right? And also, if you look at optimization of human workforce, we're looking at dependency in repetitive tasks, reduce errors, optimize time, right? So all these can be then simplified into a set of smaller objectives, right? We can consolidate, right, what we're going to do. So, and then you move to the how part of it. Then only we're going to move into and ask like how we're going to really do this, right? That's the more technical part of it. So then we're going to start with analyzing the processes. You need to start analyzing the process because you need to understand the process first. You need to understand what are the steps of the process, what are the sequence of the tasks or each step, who's carrying out these tasks, meaning the stakeholders, and also the service level agreement between each task or the process end to end. And also each step, what's the value added? So the point number 2, I'm talking about BPR and VSM, because it's also important to understand that what is the value that each step adds in a process, right? So we use things like value stream mapping, right? It's optimization technique. We ask the question, what is the value that each and every step adds to your process? It could be anything to do with business. It could also be anything to do with compliance requirements or legal requirements. So there is value, right? And also probably converting information from images to digital. That's also adds value because now you're making it more computer ready, right? So you need to understand what each and every task does and then the value that it adds, right? And also then you can ask questions in terms of, is there a better way of doing it, right? Then we look at whether you need to re-engineer the process or do any tweaking that it can be executed faster, right? And when you move to the next step, then we understand the process, we understand now it's optimized, then we understand how much of tasks are being carried out by humans, right, in the process. So if you take a process where there are 20 tasks need to happen, and out of the 20 tasks, you identify that about 10 are repetitive, mundane, and logic-based, and which involves digital data. So if you take this whole process, we draw a heat map, right? So we understand, oh, okay, now this process had this amount of tasks which is repetitive, mundane. Process number 2 has this amount of tasks repetitive, mundane, right? So you understand that which process has more tasks that can be automated, right, through RPA. And then the next step is prioritizing against business value and impact. Because you can have multiple processes, it's also important to understand to prioritize which one can be automated first. Now I'll bring a classic example. Most of you are coming from IT background, could be, right? I also used to work for a bank, so I also have gone through what you're going through. We also have a lot of back office functions or technology functions, technology operations, data center operations functions that we like to automate. But I've also seen in a board conversation or in a senior management or a corporate management conversation, what gets priority is what's related to business, right? We would love to automate a lot of things that we do in our technology departments, but in most cases, what happens is that what gets priority for investment is whatever has a impact to a core business process, right? I'm not saying IT is not important. IT is very important. IT keeps the systems on. Without systems, the bank cannot run, right? But when you are in the middle of a dilemma in terms of which process I need to pick first, we always encourage pick a business process, right? So say you have 2 processes, automating the end of day operation or automate covenant monitoring. Which one go first? Ideally, you should go first with the covenant monitoring because the business will start seeing value, and that's why you need to create that momentum, right? So we pick based on the business value. So you can actually have the multiple processes that we pick based on the heat map, put them into a backlog, like in Agile we do, and then prioritize within the backlog. Okay, fine, this process goes first, this process goes second, this process goes third, likewise. Right. And then we come into executing the automation process, right? So that phase. So that we take it and we start engaging and working with the tech teams and business, working with the business teams to automate the process. And then test, check compliance and all that, and you go live. And then you need to, what you need to do is, it's important that we evaluate the outputs and outcomes and then communicate that, right? So that is that process stage, right? And then you also need to continue with continuous improvement, right? So I'll quickly move on to what I just explained. Now on at the top, you see the traditional waterfall method, right? You wait for the subject matter expert, you analyze, and then develop, and then test, go to production, right? So we don't follow this process in RPA implementation. We follow this process, which is agile based, right? This is the process backlog that I just mentioned. So the businesses can come and put the candidate processes based on business value, and we can prioritize here. Based on that, we take one, we analyze, and then we move to development, and then you do testing, and it goes in iteration, right? And then it goes live, right? So what happens is you can take chunk by chunk and then do your automation, right? You don't have to go through one full cycle first and then go to the second one, go to the second, no, third one, no. So with this, you get to fast track your automation journey. So this is something that we have done, executed many a times with many organizations, which is tried and tested. This has actually started giving outcomes within 2 to 3 weeks. There are projects that we've gone live in 5 days, right? It works. So this is the engagement approach. I've already explained it. I'm going to skip this, right? So the different types of services that it is about us now. I explained a lot of things. Then you can ask like, fine, okay, what do you guys do? So if you look at One World and Potenza together, we start with intelligent automation strategy and roadmap. We start there because we are not just a robotics programming company or a development company. We have enough more exposure in terms of working with organizations, business teams to understand the business objectives with the business strategy, and then work backwards, as I mentioned before, explained before, to come up with an automation strategy and then a roadmap to operationalize that strategy, right? And also we provide implementation and support services, and also annual automation and technical support, or even managed services. There are organizations that we provide managed services where they are interested in looking at their core business. They're not interested in building technical capabilities, because they want their technical teams to focus on always driving business transformation, not to get bogged down with managing systems. So we have customers like that. And then skills and training, and also continuous engagement, sustainable operational excellence, right? So I'll go into client scenarios. I'll take about another 10 minutes, and then we'll leave about another 10 minutes for quick Q&A. Right, so we have NDB Bank. I've already explained it some time back, but for the benefit of the ones who've not gone through that. So NDB Bank is a licensed commercial bank in Sri Lanka. So we started working with them with post-trade monitoring, and then it went on to Credit Information Bureau, user management and maintenance, margin trading, file uploads to trading guarantee automation, and do a lot of things later on. So the impact has been, the overall impact for last 3 years, we've seen a significant reduction in PA, and also because we've been doing proactive monitoring of their assets. So their covenant monitoring, we started with covenant monitoring. Now we've gone to covenant management. We are doing complex covenant management work with the use of RPA without changing a single internal system. So the beautiful thing is you don't have to change anything that you use right now. You add RPA in addition to what you have, and then create the logics outside of your core, the other system, but it sits inside your data center, and you have full control over that. There's nothing sitting outside, right? So the outcomes that they have achieved is 0 errors in processes carried out by the software bots. We call them bots, right? And also they have made savings on hiring additional resources required to carry out the task in a satisfactory manner. So in the first implementation itself, which took 6 weeks, We automated the covenant monitoring process of the entire loan base, right? Automated, humans involved. So I'm using Haley's here. It's not a bank, but here what we've done is we have automated accounts payable process. So any organization in a finance institution, you have a procure to pay process, and there are a lot of things that actually goes up and down in terms of validation, verification before the payments are processed. Yes, this is a large conglomerate. We have done that for them, right? So I'm going to move into AIA Insurance. So AIA is, of course, a global insurance company. So what we have done there is from online reconciliation, like a payment file reconciliation. They have multiple bank accounts that actually collects life insurance premiums, which has been the MT940, automated the reconciliation manually. Some cases MT940, some cases text files, yada yada yada, and it has been done manually. Now it's been done completely automated through RPA, right? And also finance report automation. There have been multiple finance reports that used to go generate and distributed every day, which is being automated now. No humans are doing it. And also in the actuarial process automation also that has been done. There's a significant part of the actuarial process which has been automated, right? So the impact, so during the pandemic, no humans had to go to the office. On the process that we have automated, they ran without a single failure or interruption, right? Meaning we have done together with the client, we had done the exception handling pretty well, where the processes were robustly automated. Wherever exceptions happened, we had ways in terms of escalating and getting it done without interrupting the process. Moving on to DFCC, there's so much work that we have done with this organization. Again, from credit information bureau uploads to automation of payments and cash management files to and also new account link with multiple systems. So this is the bank that there was a large volume of moratorium facilities that requested due to COVID for this bank, and they calculated the amount of manual work that they had to bring to process them. It was a couple of months, requirement of labor. We did a 5-day automation, which we did at the FCC, which actually won the best post-COVID automation of within banking industry. So in Sri Lanka. So last one I have. This is to give you an idea about the speed, right? So if you look at, they're into one of the leading BPOs in insurance industry. So they outsource the process of claims processing from insurance companies, right? So what they do is, when we met them, they said, fine, we are automated, no problem. But we asked, fine, do you have a problem? So this is the same, you can use the same approach when you talk to your business teams. They will always say, fine, everything's fine. But you can ask, fine, where do you have a problem, right? So we took the same approach. We asked them, do you have a problem anywhere that you think you can improve? So they said, we have a problem. We processed 21,000 claims in 10 days, which has about 7 to 8% of error rate. Can you help us reduce the error rate? So we took a 4-week, it's 4 weeks if I'm not mistaken, implementation, right? And then when we went live, we reduced the errors to 0% errors, 0 errors. And on top of that, the 21,000 claims or the write-offs were processed in, claims were processed in 10 hours. Just imagine the capacity improvement, right? So that's what actually robotics can do to you. So Potenza and One World together, we work with the best automation platform. In Bangladesh, we are focusing on automation anywhere, right? So as a product, we also provide capabilities on some of the other platforms, which we can discuss later if any of you have requirements. But in terms of products, we work with Automation Anywhere in Bangladesh with One World. And also we have a large pool of certified professionals who have gone through multiple projects with banks and insurance companies and non-banking financial institutions. if you look at some of the awards that we've won together, if you take the team at Potenza, we're also a center of excellence for automation anywhere. If you take a look at this, this is an annual certification. We have been continuing it for the last 3 years consecutively without any failure, meaning we are adapting to the process of COE, and we live by that standard, meaning the deliverables are consistent in terms of quality. Right? And also we've become the best business automation startup in 2019. That's a couple of years old, but it's an award that we won. Also, we won the best banking technology provider in Sri Lanka by the Global Finance Review. And also, we've also selected as one of the best 100 companies globally in banking technology. Right. So, where do we stand? Potenza and One World together, we stand in the intersection of consulting and technology. We are not a consulting company who will tell you what to do, but we can do beyond that. We can sit down with you and define the strategy and the roadmap, and then we can sit down with you and do the implementation. So we bring consultancy and technology. So we call ourselves a technology consultancy, and we cover both aspects of engagements. So we can quickly, I have 15 minutes if I'm not mistaken. Maruf, we can move on to the Q&A session.
Thank you, Dhanusha. There are a few questions that has come up, and I have already forwarded a few. If you look at some of the questions.
Okay. Right. Okay, so there's one question in terms of continuous improvement or continual improvement. Okay, so of course you could use either way. So continual and continuous. So continuous, we use it continuous, we use it interchangeably, right? So we call it also PDCA in other conversations in terms of technical terms. Any other questions we have, Maruf?
Yes, there is another question has come up, is that it's more about technology perspective, is that how do you know when the bot is working properly? It's more about how the bot and process is being audited.
Okay, so in terms of, I hope I've taken out the screen, right?
Yes.
Okay, so how do we check whether a bot is working properly? Is that there are multiple ways, right? Because these bots run in the background and you don't see them. So there are multiple ways of doing it. Now, in automation anywhere context, we have something called a control center, and the control center can see what bots are being deployed. There's something called bot analytics also, right? We can actually understand the amount of work, the time taken to execute a task, all that. So there are two ways of doing that. One is through bot analytics or the control center. You have options. And the second thing is that whenever we automate something, we also build certain components to make sure that the relevant stakeholders are notified what the bot did during the process. Right? Say, for example, I need to upload a transaction file. So the bot can log into the core bank system, upload the transaction file, and it can also understand, say, they have 100 transactions, so 120 transactions. And say if you're posting one by one or whatever, it can say, I uploaded one transaction file with 120 transactions, all were posted correctly. Or I handled 3 files today and 1 file failed to upload because to a checksum error, right? So likewise, the bot can give a summary to the relevant stakeholder of what happened during the task that was assigned to the bot. So there are multiple ways that you can use or apply to understand what happened in each process and the outcomes or outputs of the execution of the process, or else as a whole, what's happening with your entire pool of bots, how productive they are, and which processes were run by who, or which port and the time taken, or whether it's reduced time, whether it's increased time, yada yada, right? So I hope I answered the question. There are multiple ways of doing that in this whole infrastructure.
We have a few more questions, Dhanusha.
Oh, okay. How RPA is used in CASA opening? How the input is taking? Can you explain details? Okay, right. Thank you very much for that question. Yes, so we've worked with a bank who's actually running Finacle co-banking, Finacle 10. They have what they do is they enter the minimum details and in create the account, but they're not open for transactions like withdrawals. So the central team input the rest of the details and then complete the creation. So what happens there is, in that particular scenario, the information was already in digital form, right? It was not a manual mandate or a form that was filled that we had to capture. The information was already being captured through or converted to digital information, right? So it's a file. So what happens is then the bot reads from the file and log into core banking system with its own username and password and enters one by one, right? So let me also dig out for the video. If I have that video, I'll try my best to show you that today. And then the next one, I hope I answered that question, Mamun. And also, what is the deployment model of RPA? It is on-premise or cloud? Okay, another good question. So RPA can be deployed on-prem, and also RPA has few options. You also have RPA as software as a service, as SaaS, meaning you don't even need to worry about deploying. You can actually use the platform and automate your processes, right? So there's a SaaS option. And then, of course, you can go for a IaaS option, which is infrastructure as a service, where you commission virtual instances of Amazon or AWS or Microsoft Azure or any other, Huawei or whatever the provider. And then you can deploy the binaries there and maintain it from there. SaaS, it's, you don't manage binaries. So for banking institutions, I don't think it's accepted. If not, you can go for infrastructure service where you actually have your virtual instances, it's under your control, and then you implement RPA on top of that. But then the challenge is to open up your systems for RPA to work, because your bots will be in the cloud and your systems are on-prem. And then the ideal option for a lot of banks where we have done is complete on-prem, right? Where it sits in your own data center and you have full control. Binaries are also inside data center, but they can go on, you can implement them on virtual machines, right? So yes, to answer the question, what can go on-prem, cloud, hybrid, or also you have RPA now available, software as a service, right? I hope I've answered that. Yeah, there are more. Can we have a bit more discussion on MDM RPA? How would RPA handle duplicate merging, deduping, sanity checks? Yes, okay. So yes, I'll try to give you a bit of details now, and then I'm more than happy to have a separate conversation if you're okay. Definitely. Mohammed Maju. Okay, so Maruf, can you take that, please? Can someone note it down so we can talk to him directly? Yes, so classic example, we can look at, say, if you get duplication, right? So duplication also, we can build logics to understand. You have the same entry, right? It's the logic that we build. Say, for example, we take a simple one, which is the phone number. So you have a customer, you have the customer information file in your co-banking, and then you have the same customer profile in your e-banking, say 2 different systems. Now we need to make sure that the latest mobile number is updated in any of the systems. Say the customer visits the branch, apply for a loan, and the teller updates the code, right? So then we have the latest mobile number or contact number in the code, and you have an old number in e-banking, right? So how do we handle this situation? So in this case, we can actually do a read and at the database layer if the core banking doesn't show when the last record was updated. If the core banking shows when the last record was updated, we can take the timestamp, and then we can take the timestamp of the file data set in e-banking and then compare which one has the latest timestamp, and then we can update we can replace the latest one with the older one. If that is not available, then we can actually go into the database layer. Even we can run a query and understand. So there are someone who enabled the mic. I think there's a feedback. Sorry about it. Right. So if it is not the case, we can even go into data layer. Right. So bots can work at UI layer with the username and password logging to the system. If not, it can work through API. So if we have APIs that we can actually read data, read timestamps, go and read and update data through the application programming interface, bots can do that. Also at data layer, but data layer we don't do update, right? Because we always go updates through the application. But to read, we can use data layer access, right? I hope I explained that. We can get into more conversations. We have done that in few scenarios where we have actually look at user accounts, deletions, updates, and all that. So something that we would like to take up. Right. What is
Thank you, Dhanusha.
Okay?
Thank you, Dhanusha. There are a few more, some other more questions coming in. I just want to let everybody know that some of the questions that we're not able to answer, we will ensure to get back to you. Since we are already at the end of the session, I would like to thank everybody for attending this session, and thank you, Dhanusha. We're looking forward to OneWorld and Potenza together, looking forward to helping the banks and financial organization and others in the Bangladesh industry for its digital transformation journey.
Yes, thank you very much, everybody, and stay safe and see you soon, because I'm planning to travel to Bangladesh frequently, at least once a month. So I'm planning to travel end of this month or early February. So we'll see you next time. Thank you very much.
Thank you all.